Welcome to today's webinar. We appreciate you joining our session today. My name is Jeannie Borum, and I am part of the corporate team here at Signworld and will be moderating our session. For those of you who haven't either participated or listened to a previous webinar, just a quick overview of the format for today's call so you understand what to expect. First, we're going to have each of our owners give an introduction of themselves and their business and a little bit about their background so you understand where they are and how long they've been in business and some other particular details about their operation. Following that, we'll be turning the floor over to you as participants to ask an individual question in which each of our owners will give a response. So you'll get multiple perspectives on each question that you give to the panel today. We do ask you to keep it to a single question, and if time permits, we'll have time for secondary questions until we reach the top of the hour. But to kick us off, if I can, I'll first turn it over to Mike to give an introduction for himself.
Sure. Mike Sobel. Name of my company is Mark Your Space. We're located in Bartlett, Illinois, which is a western suburb of Chicago. I've been in business for about 13 years now. Our current facility is about 2,000 square feet. I just am in the midst of signing a contract on a new space that's about 4,500 square feet. We currently have 7 employees. Our 2022 sales projections are about 1.4 million. Last year, we were at 1.1. And our largest customer year to date, or our largest project year to date, sorry, is about $79,000. We do have quite a few other deals that are over 10,000, about 13 of them so far this year. In terms of what I did before the sign industry, I worked in the finance industry doing all types of analytics for HSBC, the bank.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mike. Can we go to you next, Mallory, for your introduction?
Sure. My name is Mallory Smith. I own Sign Smiths of Texas. We are located on the east side of Dallas in a little town called Wiley. We have been in business since October of 2019, so almost 3 years now. We just recently expanded from 2,800 square feet to 5,140. We basically doubled. We needed the space. We've got 5 employees right now, and we're about to add 2 more. And our 2022 sales projection, I think I'm going to land somewhere around $1 million. I've got some big things happening in third quarter this year, so we'll see. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Our biggest customer is a car wash. So it's a multi-location regional car wash. They just closed on their 20th location, and we've got the exclusive business for all of their signage. And then my background is actually in more of the sciences. So research and development for vaccines, cosmetic chemistry, a little bit of dental sales at one point, and then into this this career.
Yeah, I was going to say you had lots of history with signage if that was your background.
It's always a blend of the technical and the creative.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Very good. Thank you, Mallory. Pete?
I'm Pete Duncanson. My company is Metro Center Signworks. We're located in Nashville, just a couple miles north of downtown Nashville. Been in business 2.5 years. Actually opened at the beginning of April 2020. We're in 3,100 square feet, and it's a comfortable space for now and should be for a few years. I have 1 full-time and 1 part-time employee. Expect to do $350,000 this year. It was the first couple of months were very slow, but it's definitely picking up now, and expect it to go through the end of the year. My biggest customer, I just picked this customer up about 1.5 months ago. It is a chain of autism therapy clinics that's based in Indiana. And they bought a local chain in Nashville with 9 locations, and they're rebranding all of those, plus building 2 new ones. So we just finished the first installation of one of the rebrandings just this morning. Expected to be a little over $50,000 total for all the facilities. My background, I'm an engineer by training. I spent 32 years in the steel industry in project management, sales, production management, and general business management, and then 3 years in the office products distribution business.
Awesome, thank you. Jack?
Hi, I'm Jack Werner. I joined Signworld back in 1995, last century. Back then we were more retail, more of a banner shop. We didn't have digital printers, and we were more the local, working with the yellow pages. The sign industry has changed a lot, and Signworld has changed a lot over the time. I started in 1,200 square feet, one employee. 10 years later, I was in 5,000 square feet, staff of 11, doing about 1.3 in sales. My largest customer was a regional developer for Subway that did about $250,000 per year, over and over and over again. I came out of the wholesale food distribution business, nothing to do with signs. When I sold my operation, I went into a partnership with Ken Kinn, our founder and former president. I finished buying him out 8 years ago last week. And I'm now the president owner of Signworld. So when I talk today, if it goes to my experience running an operation, I'll speak from that perspective. If it goes more from training and policy, I'll speak from that.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. We normally have our founder, Ken, on the webinars with us, but unfortunately today, or fortunately for him, he's on vacation. So previous webinars, if you watched them, you've seen an introduction for Ken in the past as well. So with that, we'll go ahead and turn the floor over to our participants. Again, we'll ask you to keep your question to a simple, or not simple, but one question to start with. And again, if time permits, we can go around more than once. I'm going to first ask Steve if you can take yourself off of mute, introduce with the group where you're from, and go ahead with your first question for today.
Okay, thanks. So can you hear me?
We sure can.
Okay, yeah, so my name's Steve Moore. I'm from High Point, North Carolina. And I guess the big question I have for the panel is, what was the biggest surprise or biggest challenge that you faced when you decided, hey, this business is for me, and you signed up? What was kind of the big hurdle? If you go, hey, we got over this and we were able to get the momentum that we needed to move forward.
All right, great question. So Pete, you started in April 2020. I think we know what your answer is going to be, but what was your biggest challenge and surprise?
We literally opened a week after the city of Nashville shut everything down. So that was definitely the biggest challenge. But you know, that's a really unique situation, we hope. Biggest challenge is getting your marketing right, getting out there. And getting the leads. That was the thing I was most worried about, and it was the biggest challenge.
What would be your advice to owners to overcome that challenge, knowing what you know now?
Get out there early, get ahead of the game, get your website set up, make sure you have a good digital marketing company you're working with, and get out and network.
Very good. Thank you, Pete. Mallory?
Yeah, I would say my biggest challenge was and still is finding people. I have found that, at least in the Dallas area, the culture of sign makers is pretty rough, and they get really cocky. And so sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to find people that fit in with the culture that I've built and then manage those people. So my advice would be to look high and low and everywhere to try and find the right skilled people with the right attitudes for your business. But then also don't be afraid to bring in people without sign experience, because I've got some fantastic employees that came from adjacent industries, but who have become some really great sign people.
Yeah, that's the advantage. After you have a few under your belt or a few on the team, you can do that. So absolutely. Very good. Thank you, Mallory. Mike?
I was brilliant and opened my business in January of 2009, in the bottom of the economy. So overcoming that was very difficult. Other than that, it's my focus. And by that, I mean picking what business I wanted and which business I pursued. And once that became more focused, rather than taking every job that I could get, we grew much faster.
So once you found your niche, you felt like that really changed your
Yeah, we have a
business?
couple. We really focus on 3 areas: exterior signs, interior signs, murals and frosting, and vehicle wraps. And we try not to play with the other stuff. No trade show stuff, no things like that. If a current client asks for something, we'll do it, but somebody off the street, we probably stay away from that.
Very good. Thank you. Jack?
Again, a couple different directions you can answer that question. To Mike's comment, is figuring out who is the right customer, not necessarily turning things away in the beginning, being the generalist so that you fill a pipeline, but then start to figure out where you fit best. And then figuring out all the different options of how things can be made. It's a complex industry of how things are made. So learning curve is a challenge. Yeah. The other way you can look at the question is your biggest weakness. If you haven't hired people before, the hiring process can be challenged. If you haven't managed projects before, you've got to figure out how to do that. If you don't have customer interface, that you've been stuck in the back cubicle, getting out there and meeting people. So that's why you're joining an organization that can help you fill in those gaps and fill in those weaknesses.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. Let's go to our next participant for the question. We have 2 Davids on the line. So I'll say David Baran, if you can take yourself off of mute and go ahead with your question for the group today.
So this question probably pertains most to, I guess I'm not on video, to Mike and Mallory. You expanded into more space relatively quickly. I would say, what drove the need for that additional space in your business?
Okay, let's start with ladies first. Mallory, why more space?
So I mentioned something about a car wash client and it's true what they say about your customers will choose your niche for you. So I ran into an issue earlier this year where I was just taking way too long to get illuminated signage up. And that was the most important part to my client. So they were going to basically pit me against a national company and say, okay, our investors have worked with this company in California before, we're going to give them an opportunity to quote. And so I knew I had to do something really quickly in order to keep that business. And I was like, well, if I started making channel letters in-house and could turn them around quicker than the wholesalers, there's no way this national company could come in and do it better. So I went out and purchased a channel letter bender shortly after the convention this year, and then went and got UL certified shortly after that. And I completed my first set of facelit illuminated channel letters a couple weeks ago. And then I was like, well, I need more space if I'm going to start doing this, because now I've got, I think 5 or 6 more sets due in the next couple of months. And I just had someone come in yesterday and ask about another 8. So that drove my expansion into what I call my metal fab space. So now I've got a clean space and a dirty space. And it was my big customer pushed me in that direction. And it seemed like once I bought the machine, everything else followed. It's kind of like Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come.
Absolutely. Great story. Thank you, Mallory. Congratulations on the new client. That's very exciting. Mike, how about you?
So as I mentioned earlier, we have 7 employees, so we are squished to the gills. Our garage space could use we do a lot of wraps, so it would be very beneficial to have 2 or 3 or 4 cars in there at once to be able to work on multiple vehicles. We get a lot of large vehicles like full-size hook and ladder, fire trucks, and that literally takes up every square inch of our warehouse floor that we have left. So that's what's driving the need for space. And then I'm also just going to need more desk space for people to come in and do sales/project management.
Very good. Pete, you haven't expanded yet, but what's your plans?
Well, we started with more space than is normally recommended. It's what was available, and got a pretty decent price on it for a 5-year lease. So I think we're probably good here for 2.5 more years in the space we have. Expansion will depend on what kind of equipment we want to put in between now and then.
Very good. Jack?
We recommend a 2,000 to 2,500 square foot space to begin with. Even though it's painful to move, the value of that is I'm not overpaying for larger space until I know what larger space I need. It's more than enough for the first year. It's right size for the second year, crowded the third year. Now you're moving into appropriate space. If you're doing a lot of vehicles, you might want a second garage door. If you're doing a lot of production work like Mallory, you might need more floor space. If you're doing ADA braille signage, you might never need more space. So we do, even though it's painful to move, we do recommend, so you're not overpaying in the beginning, start at a certain size and move into what becomes more permanent space.
Thank you, Jack. Okay, let's go to our next participant. Kathy, if you can take yourself off of mute, share where you're from, and go ahead with your question for the group today.
Hi, this is Kathy. I'm here with my husband, Gary, as well. We're from Aiken, South Carolina. We're right across the river to Augusta. I guess our question today would be, when you start networking, how do you position or sell your business, so to speak, when you're networking? And then how do you communicate that on the website when you come in with zero knowledge of making signs?
That's a great question. Let's go ahead and start with Mike. How do you start networking and promote your business when you've never done this before?
So I'm fortunate. I get a lot of Signworld owners kind of referred to stop by my place. And one of the first things I tell them is the day you sign on the dotted line to become a member of Signworld, you need to start selling. And you got to fake it till you make it, and you ask people for help. There are plenty of owners like myself and everybody else on this line that you can pick up the phone and call and say, this client needs a sign and I don't understand. Like, there are plenty of people that will help you navigate through that. So selling from the moment you get out there is very important. How you position it is kind of up to you. I have a branding background at HSBC, and I approach it from a branding standpoint. We help companies brand from the outside in. We don't actually do the development of the branding, we do the execution of the branding. And that's kind of how I position it.
Love that. Thanks, Mike. Pete, how about you?
A lot of the same things that Mike said. You gotta really dig in fast and just learn everything you can. There's a couple of partners, Signworld partners, who will help you build your website or actually do that for you. And they've done a lot of sign company websites, so they have collateral and some knowledge of it, and they'll help you a lot with that. But you really just got to show up and say, somebody says, "Oh, can you do this?" You say, "Yeah, we can do that," and then you go back to the office and figure out how you're going to do that.
Fake it till you make it. It's our favorite phrase in the beginning. All right, very good. Mallory?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of the same things that they're saying, like confidence really does help out, but fake confidence. But something that I did a lot of early on that I feel like people might have appreciated is, it's okay to say, that's a really good question. Let me find that out for you. Like it's okay to tell people that, you're not going to BS them, and that you want to make sure that you find the right fit for what they're wanting, and that you're willing to do the research to make sure that you get that to them. So don't be afraid to show a little bit of vulnerability. Still have confidence in what you're doing, but make it seem like it's more of a, you're tailoring this to them, and you want to make sure that you check all the boxes, and you'll get back to them with a fully prepared proposal once you've talked to your whole crew.
Love it. Before I go to you, Jack, I'm going to put these three on the spot one more time. So thinking back to the very beginning, your 30-second spiel when you talk to a brand new potential prospect, what did you say to market your business? Let's start with you, Mallory.
My catchphrase, if you will, is we do just about anything you can put a name on. And a lot of people have a follow-up question to that. Well, can you do this? It's an intriguing thing. So it kind of opens up the floor to say, well, I'm not sure that you can do what I need. And I say, well, I can do just about anything. What do you need?
Okay. Very good. How about you, Pete?
The 30-second introduction. We're in the business of making your brand stand out. You tell me what you need. telling me what you're thinking, and we'll make it look great for you.
Love it. Mike, I think you kind of said yours already,
I
but
kind of
was that
did,
what you
yeah.
said in the
That's
beginning?
actually part of it. You know, Mike Sobel with Mark Your Space. We're a full service sign company that helps your company brand from the outside in. And there's 3 areas that we concentrate in: the exterior, that might be the lighted sign over the door, or it could be the monument sign for the shopping center. The interior, that's the 3-dimensional logo you see when you walk in, the murals on the wall, the frosting that you put on the glass. And if you've got a fleet of vehicles, we're happy to wrap those as well.
Love it. Very good. All right, Jack, back to when you first started your business, or if you want to phrase the question or answer the question differently.
You know, by the time you are talking to customers, you've gone through business training, gone through technical training, you've learned the business management software. You've worked in 7 different locations for a day apiece, learning how they run their business. You've made the signs that decorate your showroom as part of your training. So you have somewhat of a walking knowledge that is stronger than the customers. So what we're going to teach you as well in training is, what questions do I need to ask? And so you're questioning the customer about the details of the project, saying, let me go back to my office and put together a proposal for you. And it's in that time that you go out and get the answers, either from the other owners, from the Signworld staff, or from the supplier network we have. The answers are all out there, just got to know where to get them.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. All right, let's go to our next participant, David Johnston. If you can take yourself out, I think it's David Johnston. I see a J, I'm assuming. Clarify that for us. Tell us where you're from,
Yes,
and go ahead with your question, please.
that is correct, Jeannie. This is David Johnston. I'm in the Houston, Texas metro area, just on the west side of Houston. And so my question, I'm kind of glad to see it's quite a diverse group here today. So what was it that really attracted you to the Signworld business model? And as I'm going through this whole process with different kind of franchising, if you will, opportunities, a lot of different models out there. So what most attracted you to it, and has it met your expectations, exceeded them, been some pitfalls? Just basically what's been your experience in that area?
Very good. Thank you, David. Pete, let's start with you.
So there were 3 things, I think it was 3 things that really attracted me. The first, the fact that it's not a franchise. You don't pay royalties, you don't follow their playbook. That's just a great business position to be in. A business to business business is what I wanted to be in. I didn't want to deal with consumers. And the skilled full-time workforce, instead of having to rely on unskilled day labor. That's the hardest part of the market. Skilled is hard to find, but unskilled is really hard to keep. So that was a trifecta. The clincher was talking. When I was in the position you're in now, talking to the other owners, and how many of them said that the Signworld network and the training and the support is just phenomenal. And that was what really sealed the deal for me.
And the backup to that, has it met your expectations?
Oh yeah, absolutely, exceeded.
Okay, very good. Mike?
I mean, it had to have been Jack, right?
Of course.
No, kind of like what Pete said. I didn't want a franchise. I didn't want to pay people royalties. I'm not going to pay attention to 72 pages worth of rules. That was one of the largest reasons. The second thing was, I really saw myself as being able to do this, even though I knew nothing about it. I had a little bit of branding knowledge, so I had an inkling of what to do. I had never done any sales, and the Signworld organization and owners seemed like an amazing resource to use. And I will say that they are still an amazing resource. Every year I try to go to convention. I always walk out of there with more than I came with, and it's always more than enough to pay for being there. And we appreciate that you guys put it on. Thank you.
Absolutely. Love being together for that. Mallory.
Yeah, so I kind of came from a family of entrepreneurs, so I grew up kind of with that same mindset. after I did enough time in the corporate world, or what I felt like was enough time, I was looking for something that, like was said before, it didn't have any royalties. But another thing was that I don't fit well into boxes. I like the freedom to do things a little bit differently and a little bit of an innovation, something that fits me better, or what I feel fits like the situation. And I felt like I had that. I had the foundation to do that, with Signworld, where they showed me where to start, and they gave me the equipment I needed to start. And then they said, okay, now go have fun. And I was able to do that.
And has it met your expectations?
Yes, I've had to figure things out a lot more than I originally thought I would, but I think that's for the best.
Just the complexity of the business and all the unique types of projects out there. There's a lot to learn.
Yeah, well, that, and I had never filed taxes for a business before. I didn't know how to do all those things, like just the administrative things on top of that. I hadn't had a whole lot of time, experience managing employees, and that's been a very big learning curve. So
Absolutely. Thank you. Jack?
I made a list for myself of 35 things are important. Some involve what was my day going to look like. Some involve the economics of my life, and some involve life beyond work. Could I turn it off and be able to have time? Signworld hit all 35, and everything else I looked at got kicked out for multiple reasons, either because of the rule book, because of the royalty, because of not having, with this, having repeatable customers, having every day be different, being able to see the results of what you did, having alternative ways that you can put it together. It's kind of a business in a box with alternative assembly instructions. You don't have to do it just one way. You get to customize it to you, and that's huge. So I really challenge you, make a list of what's important for you and eliminate other concepts based on, are they really hitting the criteria you're trying to hit? Look at it from the inside out, not from the outside in.
Mike?
Yeah, there was one thing I did forgot to mention, and one of the big reasons that I chose this business too was it created something that was worth something when I decided to walk away. And depending on how you build it, it could have a tremendous amount of resale value and provide the, another more additional to help retire.
You mean where you want to go to Aruba and live on the beach for a few
Pretty
months?
much, you got it.
Absolutely. Jack, did you have something to add?
Think of this, in today's economy, with the job market as it is, picking a business, knowing you're going to run it for, call it 10 years. I want to make the most amount of money with the least number of employees and the least amount of turnover of employees over that time. There's some great franchises out there, but honestly, to make a good living, you'll probably have 20, 30, 40 employees, and the turnover of them is constant. So by the time you're done, you've gone through a couple hundred employees. It's an HR business where we've got operations that have been around have the original employee from 10 and 20 years ago. If you hire carefully and nurture, it's a career more than a job. So you don't have the turnover. Small number of employees, bigger incomes. Gene, I've got several slideshows I'm going to show in the background here. They don't have any audio, so we'll continue with questions. The first one goes to showing some of the operations inside and out, so you can see what facilities look like. Second one goes to what is a sign. The first part of that slideshow shows what the original equipment makes. Second part of that slideshow shows what the things you'll outsource until you get deeper in the business. As Mallory's starting to bring equipment in to make some of those things in the back room. The third part of that slideshow shows you some things that you might not even think of as a sign, but yet becomes part of our what we make. The third slideshow goes to some of the wall of fame. While you start off with simpler projects, the projects get bigger and more complex as you grow into the business. So this will just kind of show some of the potential later on. So go ahead and continue with questions.
Thank you, Jack. Soji, if you can go ahead and take yourself off mute, share where you're from or where you're moving to, or both, and go ahead with your question for the group today.
Hi there, folks. My name is Soji. I'm calling in from Toronto, Canada. Planning to open a Signworld business out in Orlando, so I'm pretty excited about that. So coming from a faraway place to a new place, my question really my mind has been focused a lot on marketing and also, going into a new space, sort of city. So my question has to do with marketing and has to do with the importance of having a a well laid out and working website, with optimum sort of S. I just found out from the owner that the one impact it's had on yours.
Did Soji break up for anybody else, or is it me? I'm just making just a little bit. Okay, so Soji, I think your question was, how'd you get your marketing established and how important it was, or if you could just clarify just to make sure we didn't miss a piece of that.
Yeah, how important your website was, and your website optimization and the impact it's had on your ability to actually get clients in and conversion rates from that.
Okay, so let's dive a little bit deeper into your marketing strategy for our owners. So thinking about, why your website stands apart, how do you drive conversions, how important that is. Mike, I know that was one of your keys to success, or what you mentioned in the beginning. You want to elaborate a little bit further on that?
Yeah, I would highly recommend, if you're just starting to use one of the vendors that will manage your online marketing campaign and create your website. There's a couple of them available through Signworld and non-Signworld. They know better than anybody you're going to hire off the street how the sign industry works. And the sign industry is very unique. It's very tough to break into on your own. I've spent thousands and thousands of my own dollars going after certain keywords in my market, and it's very, very difficult to do on your own. So I would recommend going with one of the vendors that have a proven track record.
So if I could just add a couple additional questions to this. What's your current conversion rate? So quotes that you do put together an actual quote for that you choose to pursue, do you know what your conversion rate is? And what % of your new business comes from your internet?
So we do about, I would say we're at like 37% conversion rate if we do a quote.
Okay.
And we do a quote with anybody who's serious, and we actually generate a quote through Corebridge. And I would say about 40% of my business is from online, 33% of it is referral/repeat business, and the rest is networking.
Okay, very good. How about you, Mallory?
Yeah, so I built my website with one of the preferred vendors, but I would say that I had a very, I was very detailed in that process. I knew what I wanted it to look like, and I gave them a lot of direction, which I feel like helped a lot. And then I didn't quite see the results that I was expecting about 4 or 5 months in, I think. And so I actually met a local person at one of my networking groups, and we fit very well. And instantly, like just SEO, like my numbers just started rising. So it was a good match for me. I haven't done a whole lot of pay-per-click. I really wanted to build more organic growth that I could kind of just continue to compound off of. Now that I'm in channel letters, I'm considering targeting specifically channel letters, since there will be a high margin for that. But yeah, I would say that SEO or internet marketing accounts for about 50% of my business. I'm a very strong networker, and I know how to utilize my local connections to build business. So I'd say at this point, I'm working just as hard as my SEO, but I know that that's going to change soon, and I don't want it to be that way for forever. I've got a 3-year-old, and I don't want to be stuck in the business all the time. My current conversion rate is about 60% for what we would like to do.
Very good, thank you. Pete?
When you're starting out, the website it's pretty much everything. Networking takes time to establish a reputation and get some confidence from the other people, from the people you're networking with. So good website design and SEO is critical. I'd say 90% plus of my leads in the first 6 months came through the website. What was the rest of the question? conversion rates, I think we're at about, I'm lousy at tracking that data. I'm trying to track it, but I'm not analyzing it. I'd say we're at about 50% quote to order conversion. Right now, probably 60 to 70% of our leads or quotes are coming through the website still. I started out also with one of the Signworld partners. They did a good job getting it started up, but I felt like we were kind of stagnating. And I just, beginning of this year, switched to a local provider who was recommended through my networking group, and have really seen the results. Last 4 or 5 months, 4 months have been crazy with new leads.
That's great. Thanks, Pete. Jack?
You know, Soji, knowing that you're moving to a different market, you're going to want your website up and running early because it takes time for Google to index it and start giving it credibility. You cannot expect a tremendous amount of results from your website just in the organic side for the first number of months. It takes some while to do that extra activity that's going to warrant moving up the ranks and getting it. So you'll probably put some extra money in a pay-per-click early just to get some early leads because you don't have the local contacts that somebody that's been living in a market might have. You're going to do more networking, Chamber of Commerce networking group, Rotary Club, the Canadian organization. There's lots of former Canadians in Orlando that you're going to lean on, and they're going to help you as others have helped them. You're going to find that by the end of the first year, a couple things have happened. One, the great majority of your leads are coming through your website because it is going to become the dominant player. Second of all, you're going to know more people in the new community than you ever did in the old because of how you've networked through the community and you've made signs for the local schools, churches, hospitals, civic organization. It really is going to immerse you in the community more than you've ever been before.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. All right, we have time for more questions. At the very bottom of your Zoom window, there's a place where you can click to raise your hand if you have a second question that you'd like to ask the group today. So for our participants, if you can go ahead and click on that. If you do have a second question, I'm sure a few of you might. David Baran, I see your hand raised already. Go ahead and ask your question for the group.
Yeah, you know, Mallory mentioned that sign makers are a little rough. I guess I'd like to know how you attracted your first customer-focused A-player employee to what was a brand new business.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Mallory.
Okay, so employment's been rough for me. I wouldn't say that I wouldn't say that I've still found that person that knows what they're doing and that has all the skills and is just fantastic. I went through, you know, my first employee kind of said he knew more than he did, and you kind of saw it in his work. And then my second employee I hired on right before COVID, and he came back with a bit of a drinking problem. So that didn't work out. And then, but you know, so my third one is the one that stuck with me for 2 years, and he came from from the awards and name tags business. His shop got closed down during COVID, and you know, I met him, and you know, the first thing he said was like, "Hey, give me a shot. Like, even if I just have to work for free for just a little bit to show you what I can do, like I'm willing to do that." And this was, you know, coming out of COVID. People had made a little bit of money from staying home, so he was like, "You know what? Like, if you'll take a chance on me, then I'll show you." And that really impressed me. I was like, okay, like this dude's got guts, and like he says he can learn fast, and he did. Like he learned a lot of the skills that he needed to just within the first couple of months, and he's been my go-to guy ever since. Like we understand each other, we communicate well, we have the same standards of quality. His a little bit higher than mine, so we have to kind of balance, you know, time versus, do you really need to get that one last little wrinkle out? Like it's there's definitely a balance there, but yeah, I feel like focusing on who you are as a business owner and what kind of culture you're wanting to create is how you attract that right employee.
Thank you, Mallory. Pete?
I got really lucky when I started. the first person who applied for my position, I hired. I didn't hire him on the spot, but just a really good guy with great experience. And he had worked for a couple other sign shops this size, but was working for a much larger trade show booth manufacturer, and just not liking the big company feel. He wanted to be the big fish in a small pond. So it was very lucky that we found each other at that time, just at that time. Unfortunately, he decided after a lifetime in the sign business that he was ready to get out of it at the beginning of the year, this year. So I've been without a true sign maker since then. And it's hard to hire. Along the way, I hired a great installer who also, he had no sign experience, but he's a great handyman. And he's picked up the sign part of the business and has just done, he's done tremendous work, and, you know, really good with his hands. So that's kind of where we are now, still in the hunt for a sign maker, just to be able to handle, to grow the capacity.
Very good. Thank you, Pete. Mike?
My first hire was a sign maker, somebody in the industry already, and basically it was a money play. They wanted more money, and that worked out well for the period of time it did, until I figured out they were stealing from me. And but my philosophy's kind of changed. I find that in this industry, people are very cut in their ways, and they aren't very flexible, and they'll argue with you about the best way to do it, even though you can show them a better way. So we try to hire with little to no experience and teach them from the ground up. And we find that they learn our way, and they have really different perspectives, and can give some really good input. So, you know, we've just kind of changed our philosophy. I couldn't have done that though from the very beginning, because I didn't, and nobody in my shop, because it was just me, had the knowledge to do the things that my first employee did.
Thank you, Mike. Jack?
In new owner training, we're going to spend a fair amount of time in HR, give you a full HR manual, give you the ads to place and tell you where to place the ads. You're going to interview for culture. Then turn it over to us and let our technical trainer interview them for knowing sign equipment. I will interview them for multitasking, quality control, project management. From there, I think a lot of Signworld owners stop and don't go farther. And I really think they're missing a valuable part of the program. Other Signworld owners are more than happy to help you interview, and knowing they have more experience, let them help interview and look for those red flags. Because we hire for talent, we fire for behavior. We got to figure out where those flaws are. But then while people interview well, doesn't mean they work well. So pay for a day's wages, have them go work another location. Determine, do they show up on time, get along with others? Are they creative? Do they manage their time? Do they make mistakes? So a lot of help in helping you find that right individual. The first one does have to be the journeyman that knows how to design it, print it, assemble it, install it, because you're still green. From there, you're going to hire either more journeymen, or you're going to hire more for culture and train them how to do it. The good news is there is a workforce out there. Is it a tight market now compared to others? But everything you're looking at has tight markets to it. The individual you're looking for has 5, 10, 15 years of experience, has a graphic arts education, probably trade school, not college, has worked elsewhere, and can design it, can print it, can assemble it, can install it, can carry it from idea to on the building. They're going to come to work for you for one of several reasons. They're the number 2, 3, or 4 guy where they currently work. There's a ceiling, they'd like to move up. Working on old equipment, they'd rather work on new equipment. That's what you have. And they're looking for the happy home, the boss that will give them praise when they did a good job, the boss that won't yell at them in front of others if they made a mistake, the boss let them off of their daughter's recital because family's important, the boss will give them a raise without begging. So if you hire carefully and nurture, we have operations that have original employee from 10 to 20 years ago.
Thank you, Jack. I see another hand raised. David Johnston, if you can take yourself off of mute and go ahead with your question, please.
Yeah, thanks, Jeannie. I just had a question. This is not a true territory-oriented business. So how far afield do you typically look to do business? So you stay close to home? Do you resist the temptation to spread out and go further afield? What's the thought and strategy and what works best for you and from customer support and acquiring customers?
Great question. Mike, you're in the Chicago market. There's lots of Signworld owners, lots of other sign companies. Where do you target?
Sure, well, we do business nationwide. We do probably 70% of our business in the Chicago area. And of that 70%, probably 80% of that business is within 25 miles of where I'm at. So our online marketing strategies are all probably within that 25, but we do handle national clients, and that's what gives us clients throughout the country.
Very good. Pete?
So it's just like it's hard to know which customers and which products to not serve. It's hard to turn down things based on distance. We are kind of like Mike, where I'd say 90% of our business is within a 20-mile radius. However, my second largest customer, they were my largest customer up until a month and a half ago. They are 50 miles away. And we've done probably a dozen orders with them over a year and a half. So they're just a great customer. They're the customer you kind of learn is the one that it's the dream customer. They don't get competitive bids. They just ask you for a price and tell you what they want. So we'll go a long ways to take care of good customers. We've gone a long ways to take care of customers we never want to deal with again. But you just kind of zoom in on your region just as much as you do on your product mix and customer mix. But it's hard to turn down any opportunities just because they're a long ways away if they're big enough.
Yep, absolutely. Mallory?
Yeah, so most of my business is in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. But I'd say I've actually spoken with a few of the Dallas area Signworld owners about this, and the majority of us feel like there's enough business for all of us. Like, we don't even have to worry about stepping on each other's toes. We just kind of do our thing and find the right customer matches for each other. And I'd say most of us are doing pretty well. I would say that my target market is kind of multi-location, medium-sized businesses. So I have done projects out in Arizona, Florida, just things that have come up. But yeah, most of it is pretty much to the DFW area.
So for Mallory and Mike, who you talk about having these national accounts and long distance customers, how do you support those types of projects? Explain for the participants how that works, if you don't mind.
Sure. So one of my larger clients is Kone Elevator and Escalator. And anytime they open an office, close an office, or relocate, we handle all the branding on the outside and the inside. So that means we're doing the exterior signs, the graphics, the three-dimensional signs inside, etc. And what we do is we use, I try to use Signworld owners first as installers, because there's a really, you know that a Signworld owner is going to do their best to get something done, and they're going to shoot honest with you. They're not going to like BS you. Otherwise, we use Sign Search to find vendors when their Signworld owners are not available. So we basically get paid to manage, projects is basically what we're getting paid to do. A lot of the stuff we'll manufacture in-house and ship, and other stuff we'll have manufactured somewhere else and shipped. Or if there's a local company, like if I get a Dallas job, I'm going to call Mallory now, and I'm going to be like, hey, Mallory, I've got a job. Now that I know you can make this, shoot me a price. Like that. I mean, that's what we want to do. That is our preferred method, a Signworld owner, but not always possible.
Mallory, anything to add?
Yeah, I've actually used the Signworld network as part of a selling tool. Whenever I've acquired my out of state and my multi-location customers in the past year, and what I've said to them is, hey, I'm a part of an owners alliance, not a franchise. We're all independently owned. I've got a network of over 300 other sign companies all across the US and Canada, and we all think the same way. We all have the same values, and I trust them to do as good of a job as I would do in these other areas. And people love hearing that.
Love it. Thank you for sharing. Jack, any thoughts?
In the beginning, you're a local sign company taking care of smaller products and close to home. That's going to evolve. Most customers can say, you did a good job for me here. Can you take care of me in another city? And you're going to find yourself going farther and farther out. If you can do the whole job on your own, you're good to go. If you need to have another sign willing to coordinate with you to do part of it, knowing you have products coming to you and products going from you, you're going to know what a good fair wholesale rate is to make both happy. But in the long term, while you're going to have regional and national customers, in most cases, the contact started from something local.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. I don't see another hand raised. So if for those that might not know how to raise a hand, if you want to take yourself off of mute, if you have another question, just go ahead and do so at this moment or this moment in time. Don't see anyone going off of mute. So I'll go ahead and I'll put in a question here. So let's see. When you think about the limit of your business, when you first decided to do Signworld and you had goals in your business as far as growing your business, what do you think the limit of the business is? Let's start with you, Pete.
I don't know that there is a limit to the business. There's a time limit. It's not going to be more than 10 more years for me, and probably less. So the limit is whatever we can grow to in that time.
So from a competitiveness perspective, you don't think there's a limit?
Not at all. Not at all. Like I think Mallory said, there's plenty of work for everybody in this market for sure.
How about you, Mallory? Any additional thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I agree. The limit is you. In all reality, the limit is, can you remove yourself as the bottleneck? Because that's where I have hit, is with the growth that I've experienced in the last year. I have become the bottleneck, and I'm learning to delegate things out so that I can scale and grow from this point. I've hit my 5-year goal in 3 years, essentially, and I've got a little bit further to go. But I've been doing a lot of thinking lately on what the long-term goal is and where I want to hit and what my exit strategy is. And someone put it very well: the life of entrepreneurs that are truly in control of their vision and their business, and freedom is defined as life on your terms. So what are your terms and what are you trying to create for yourself? And that's your limit.
Love it. Mike?
I think it's all about what you want to do. You can be as big as you want to be and limit your growth as much as you want to. It's going to come down to your appetite. Do you want to have 25 employees? Do you want to have 3 employees? Do you want to? I think it's limited to that. And I'll be honest, in my own mind, those limits have changed over time. And I thought at one point, you know what, just want this calm, cool 1 million, and I'll be fine and happy and find a way to manage myself out of the business. And that's changed. So it's all what you have inside your head.
Very good. Love it. Again, opportunity for our participants. If you have a question, you can put it in the chat box. You can raise your hand or go off of mute. I'll give you another second. Otherwise, I'll ask a question for the panelists as another one, if there aren't any.
Jane, I got a comment to what you're asking there.
Sure.
I really believe the sign business is unlimited. A lot of the other options that you might be looking at, the limit of the business might be the marketing, because they're in charge of it. Hope they did a good job. The territory or the location they assign you, because you're limited by that, unless you buy another one. In Signworld, it's your branding and how you're doing it, regional and national customers. So the limit of the business is truly you.
Absolutely. Very good. All right, I do see a raised hand. Actually, I see two now. Soji, go ahead and take yourself off of mute and ask your question for the group.
Great. Just another question regarding culture. I know some of you have touched on that, a little bit. What does that look like in each of your companies? Like, what is culture look like business culture for you?
So Mallory, you've talked about culture quite a bit already on the call today. What would you say? How would you define your culture?
So I have my core values posted in the middle of the shop, and it's about consistency and attention to detail. It's about continuous improvement and learning. It's about treating everyone with respect. It is having fun and good attitudes and hungry for achievement. Those are and I got some of these from the Traction program, or just reading the book really. But so that's kind of where I start. And then I try and find people that fit into those areas, that fit those check boxes. So like I basically, I thought to myself, if I were to be happy in a business, if I were to create something where I was happy and I was comfortable, what would be necessary? And I made that my culture. And then I found people who thought the same thing. Like we crack jokes all day long, and I feel like it's a necessity. Like it's so important to have fun when we do it, and it keeps everybody motivated and happy. And so when you think about culture, you really just need to think about what's important to you.
Very good. Thank you, Mallory. Pete?
I try to, my culture that I drive is one of very professional, where everybody is treated like an adult. We don't have a time clock. Everybody, we do have to, when you have part-time employees, you do have to still pay hourly, but time is self-reported. I expect them to take time off if they need to for personal reason. And in return, I expect them to stay a half an hour late if something just has to get done. We're very open, try to keep it friendly, avoid any political discussion. That can ruin a culture really fast. So we just try to keep it professional. I came from similar environments where you were just expected to act professionally no matter what.
Very good. Mike?
I'll just talk about a couple things we do a little differently. So I interview and decide if somebody can do the job, but I don't hire. They interview with my team, and my team decides whether or not somebody gets hired. That's so they fit culturally. So they work closely together, and they're constantly asking each other's questions. They're constantly having back and forth. What's the best way to do this? What's the best way to do that? That's just not for the office people. That's for the people who are installers. They all have to work together. So I want to know from day one that they're all going to work together well, and I leave the decision up to them. And they learn from their bad decisions, because we've had some, and it's been very helpful.
Very good. Jack, anything to add?
Yeah, the beauty of Signworld is you get to choose your own culture. You get to deal with who you want to deal with, as opposed to the corporate life or the franchise world where the culture is set for you.
Absolutely. All right, to our panelists, are you okay if we go to one last question? I see one more raised hand, but we'll be a couple minutes over, just making sure you guys are okay with that. All right, very good. So last question for today, David Baran, I see your hand raised. Go ahead and take yourself off of mute and ask your question today.
Just want to know if anyone did additional investments in equipment in the business so far, this early in your time, to add capability.
So we know Mallory did. Mallory, you want to share maybe even how much additional capital expenditures you put into the business?
Yeah, so I would say just like rough operating income to get you through the first, few months or so until you've got money coming in. Plan for, I don't know, maybe 40 to 50,000 in addition to your Signworld investment. But I would let's see, I think it was June of 2020. So about 6 months in, I bought a panel saw cutter combo, a safety speed. And I think that was about $6,000. Luckily, the government was dishing out a bunch of money at that point. So I was able to take advantage of some loans to make that happen early on, some low interest loans. But so I bought that, and then my bender, my channel letter bender, I purchased, I think it was April, and that was about 25,000 all in, plus materials, and tables, and so a little bit more than that once you accumulate all of it. And then the day after I bought that channel letter bender, the Sprinter van that I had been looking for months suddenly became available. So I dropped another 25,000 on that. So I mean, total additional equipment investment would probably put somewhere around 60,000 in the first 3 years.
And Mallory, if you can explain what a Sprinter van is, just for those who might not know.
So the Sprinter van is, it's our work vehicle. It's got a cab with 2 seats up front. It's a 2500 diesel engine, but the back side of it is fully enclosed with windows, so you can see out straight through the back. But the important thing that I looked for is that it had a compartment that was, it's 10 foot long and I think about 7 foot high storage wise. So I can put a full 5x10 sheet up on the wall and not worry about it going anywhere.
Very good. Thank you. Pete?
So I bought a panel saw used at an auction right away, but that was a pretty minimal investment. It was less than $1,000. And I bought a van last fall, an old van, spent $10,000 on it. And that's been the limit of my additional capital investment.
Very good. Thank you, Pete. Mike?
Let's see, we've had a Ford F-150. Well, we still have a Ford F-150. We've got a Transit Connect, kind of like the Sprinter, just a smaller version. We bought 2 printers in addition to the original printer that we had. We bought an additional laminator and got rid of the old one. It was old and not salvageable. And countless tools. You will collect tools like nobody's business if you're doing your own installations. We have spent a tremendous amount of money on wrap type tools, gloves, Rolly Pros, all kinds of things like that. And let me tell you, it hurts to buy them, but they're worth every penny. So don't hem and haw about the $75 Rolly Pro, just buy it. And let's see what else. I'm sure I'll be spending a lot more when we move into the new facility. So work tables and things like that. We've probably spent over 100 grand.
Over 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Let's see. I see a comment from Mallory really quick. I got a local CNC.
Yeah,
Oh,
sorry.
That was directed to me.
got it. Okay.
He asked
very
how
good.
I'm cutting the letters, the backs and the faces for my channel letters. And so just so you know, I don't have a CNC machine. I've got a local guy that does it for me wholesale.
Love it. Let's see. Even on this call, our owners are learning from one another. Fantastic. All right. Well, we are 4 minutes past the top of the hour. I want to be considerate of our owners' time. Mallory, Mike, and Pete, thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy schedules and being on the call today to answer the question for our participants. We really, really appreciate you guys.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. And to our participants, we appreciate your interest in learning more about Signworld, and we look forward to the additional future conversations with you to help you to identify if this is the right next chapter in your lives. So with that, we'll conclude our session today. Wish you all a great rest of your Thursday and coming weekend. And thanks for joining, everyone.